Hi everyone, you're listening to the Bridgeway podcast. The purpose of these podcasts is to give us the opportunity to share information and thoughts with you and to inspire all of you who work at Bridgeway. As ever, we'd love to hear from you, so if you've got any feedback, please get in touch.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Brackner, HR Director, and welcome to our first ever Bridgeway podcast. Today I'm catching up with our MD, Pino and Rosa, to talk about his thoughts on wellbeing and what our plans are at Bridgeway around our approach to employee wellbeing. Pino, I've been at Bridgeway for just over 20 years now. I didn't have to send an email on my first day, and now we're doing a podcast. But for those that haven't known you as long as I have, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Pino and Rosa, Managing Director of Bridgeway Consulting. I left school at 16 years old with the equivalent, I guess, of 6 GCSE passes, but work opportunities were quite tough in the 1980s. None of my family had been to university, so I figured I needed a job. Started out on a YTS, which is today's equivalent of the Kickstarter scheme. Became a trainee rather than apprentice bricklayer. At the time in the 80s, apprenticeships were virtually non-existent. And then I joined BR when I was 18 years old and went back to college, finished my advanced craft in bricklaying and bricklaying technology, and then went on to take an ordinary national certificate in civil engineering, and then went on to do a HNC, High National Certificate, at Nottingham Trent University. I was promoted to a senior technical officer grade and became a member of British Rail's Underwater Inspection Unit. That gave me the opportunity to go to Fort Bovisand in Plymouth. I trained as a commercial diver, basic air diver, Part 3, which was great fun. Still ranks as probably the 6th most exciting end-to-end weeks of my life. Got married to my wife Carolyn in 1994, and then the following year, along with Brian Madison and Andy Jones, set up Bridgeway Consulting in the April. I've got 4 daughters. They're from range in age from 16 to 23 years old, and generally, been a busy guy at work, in my personal life. I guess I've always enjoyed keeping fit, and in the early stages of my career, my day job pretty much provided all the exercise needs I had, and as I've evolved in terms of through my career, I've ended up doing other things to keep myself in shape, different sports and what have you.
When was the last time you went diving?
Too long ago, to be honest.
What motivates you?
I guess the 3 E's motivates me, the exceeding expectations everywhere safely and sustainably. And that's not just about work, that's in my personal life too. I believe that, we should, where we can, give somebody a little bit more of what they were expecting. I like the feeling I get from it when someone gives me something that I wasn't expecting, and it can range from a burger to a coffee or whatever. Trying to do something as well as I can is something that's important to me, and trying to do something a little bit better than I did last time is something I try and aim at. Watching people grow in themselves and grow as a team gives me a big buzz. So within the business, people who came into the company, such as yourself, who, as you said in your intro,
Couldn't send an
email when you first joined, and now you're at director level. That for me is a really satisfying buzz. And I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but Bridgeway is all about, for me, being part of something that's much greater than the sum of its parts, and that's whether we're dealing with ourselves on a peer-to-peer level or with clients. And we're not perfect, but we're working towards being a little bit better.
So one of the purposes of today is to talk about wellbeing, and I think the pandemic in particular has shone a light on this. But I think there's some people out there that still see it as quite a fluffy, maybe HR initiative. What does wellbeing mean to you?
It's a massive part of everyday life. I think, everybody gets the exercise side of things in life, and it's a priority to some more than others. I strongly believe that a healthy body will support a healthy mind. And it doesn't really matter where you're at or what level you're at. If you're doing something that gives you a bit of exercise, it's better than nothing. I think that physical exercise is everybody understands and sees it, and some people like it more than others. I think that people need to, in my view, people need to realise that working on your mental well-being is equally as important.
Just as important, yeah. What initiatives then are we exploring at Bridgeway in relation to wellbeing?
Yeah, wellbeing initiatives that we're exploring are we're going to be signatories to the Rail Mental Health Charter and work towards its framework. The Charter has been created with the aim of encouraging employees to engage with mental health agenda and support them in preventing and addressing mental ill health. It also aims to share good practice and take proactive approach to an open and inclusive culture within the company. The signatories of the Charter are required to develop an action plan that address key issues, and we'll continue to share updates on this as we work through them. Most importantly, I want everyone who works for us to feel safe and secure in having honest and open conversations about how they're feeling. I never want anybody to feel as though they need to hide their issues if they have any. When you look at it, we all have bad days, but what's really important is to have people in your life that can be there for you when you need them. And if needs be, I want Bridgeway to be one of those people. I want people at Bridgeway to be somebody you can contact when you're in that place.
Yeah. So, we've got some really great initiatives on the horizon. And for me, the most important is that we have that culture at Bridgeway where people can have that open and honest conversation. So what are we going to do next?
We need to formulate a plan to align ourselves to the Charter. We need to continue with HSQE surveys, which we've been doing for a while. Although the response to the last one wasn't the size we would like, it was reassuring that the feedback that we got was positive in relation to well-being and mental health. The feedback generally showed that most people felt able to approach their managers if they had an issue, which is a good starting point. These surveys matter to me. We need your feedback so that we can improve what we do. So I'd encourage everyone to take part in them. We want to get this right and improve what we do, which will only happen if as many of you as possible engage with the process. And we're also going to be providing training in the new year to our mental health champions within your teams. Our HR team will be working on events calendars for next year and to keep you up to date with initiatives and share as much information as we can to help support your well-being. The most important thing is that at Bridgeway, we all feel that we work in a safe environment where we can have an open and honest conversation around mental health.
I think it's really important that people are proactive and engage with these initiatives, but how we're going to know whether it's working and how we're going to measure its success.
Our plan is to have wellbeing as an agenda item in our safety leadership meetings and aim to identify emerging trends. This will enable us to focus resources where needed and keep our safety strategy on track. Reviewing statistics and trends generated from our HR team will help. And I feel we have a generally positive workplace, but I need to feel confident that we're doing our best to promote our culture right across the business and at all levels. And that's whether it's at head office, in remote offices or out on site.
So that's obviously what we're doing from a business perspective, but now getting on to you. Some people might think that you've got no worries at all, but tell us what keeps you up at night.
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, my responsibility as the MD is something I don't take lightly. Within that, commerciality and assurance are sort of fighting with each other all the time. From a commercial perspective, the pressures to increase turnover and increase income are high because we need to survive financially. But at the same time, from an assurance perspective, we need to make sure we keep our people safe and we deliver a quality job. So they're always balancing aspects. People, safety and well-being, absolute top of my agenda. Without people who are who are benefiting from being at work in a sustainable work pattern, we can't function as a business. And client delivery and quality and performance and commercial viability are things that we've got to get right as a company. If we overgild the lily from an assurance perspective, we won't be able to survive as a business. If we don't deliver quality product or hurt people, we don't deserve to be in business. So, they're critical. My family matter a lot to me. I've got 4 young daughters. You know, the youngest is 16, the eldest is 23. They
That's
keep me
stressful.
awake.
Four daughters.
Yeah, that keeps me awake at night sometimes. Albeit I'm a lucky man. I do feel blessed in that sense. My brother Pete, some of you might know him. He's got special needs. He pops around the office sometimes. He's been through a really rough patch in the last 2 years.
How's he doing now?
He's doing well. You know, in 2000, he was diagnosed with leukemia, and he had to have chemotherapy. Last April, he had a double heart bypass, and about a month ago, he had his gallbladder removed. So, you know, despite all of that, he's still smiling. He's got an amazing personality, really, really positive, full of energy, full of beans. Fingers crossed, as it stands at the moment, he's doing well. But I'm his primary carer as such, and that's kept me awake.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic and its impact on the economy and its impact on my life, my family's life, staff and their families, because, you know, it isn't just about work. We've been fortunate at Bridgeway. We've had to go through quite a bumpy road, but, you know, we have generally been able to keep busy. Some staff members will have members of family who haven't been able to work for whatever reason. So, you know, that kind of thing gives me something to think about. And you know, it's not always meant a great night's sleep, but that's what I signed up for.
I think for me, it doesn't matter, you know, who you are or what level you're at in the business. It can obviously affect us all. But how do you manage those stresses?
I've over time, I've had to work out what's going off whenever I'm in certain situations. And I guess I've learned to sort of spot those signs. And I've also learned to understand how those signs manifest themselves, what the symptoms are, and then try and put coping strategies in place. Exercise and sport have been a key part for me. As I said, in the early stages of my career, my job kept me fit. Then I went into engineering, and that was a big change for me, coming from an artisan tradesman career, moving into an engineering role, created lots of challenges. We then, you know, set the business up, got married, had children. That reduced my ability to be able to be active. But, you know, I because of that, I realised that I needed to stay fit. I did karate for 20 or so years. I don't do that anymore. Body's changed a bit, and I think it's probably not the best sport for me right now. But I cycle, I swim on occasion. I really enjoy playing tennis. And actually, you know, just taking long walks, bit time consuming sometimes, but they can be really good for me. So as an example, you know, if I'm at meetings in London or in any place and I've got time to get from one place to another on foot, rather than jump on a tube or in a cab, I'll walk. And, you know, there are times when, say, for example, I get to Covent Garden Station, instead of catching the lift, I walk up the stairs, and that's the equivalent of walking up a 16-storey office block. It's not for everyone, but, you know, there are times when that's my form of exercise, and I'll just fit a bunch of steps into a day. I think it's really important to have somebody or a group who you can trust and share your thoughts with, just someone that you can speak to in times when you're feeling stressed. And what I think is really important is that there are times when it's important to try and put things in perspective. We can all get stressed about stuff. And often, if you give yourself time to reflect on what you're getting stressed about, it's not usually as bad as it first seems. So, you know, taking a bit of time out, taking a step back can be helpful. And then the other thing is just a small thing. I mean, I learned this when I was training as a diver. When people are anxious, they don't breathe so well. So when I first learned to dive, the biggest challenge I had was letting go of the air I'd got in my lungs. It's a human natural instinct to hold on to your breath. The problem with that is carbon dioxide builds up in your lungs, and carbon dioxide is made to make you feel anxious. You're not supposed to be happy when your lungs are full of CO2. So, you know, I think what people can learn to do is just exhale and inhale properly.
I'm laughing there because you tell me that all the time, don't you? It's like I breathe in, but I don't breathe out.
Yeah, you can't take a breath in if you haven't got rid of the old breath. So, you know, some people do things like yoga. I think yoga and meditation. I think things like swimming forces you to breathe properly. And some people sing, you know. If you look at a lot of societies in the past that have suffered because of poverty or whatever, you'll always find that a lot of them sing to feel better.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever it is, find something that works for you. Find something, those little things that make you feel better, marginal gains, little things that will make you feel a little bit better, and take a break from whatever's bothering you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes these things that bother you, the more you dwell on them, the bigger they get.
Yeah. I think that in terms of putting stuff in perspective, that's the thing about speaking to people, isn't it? Because they can help you.
Yeah, it's just sometimes just sharing that problem.
Yeah. So how have you educated yourself around this kind of stuff?
Well, I've tried to be self-aware. I guess there was an interesting point one evening. I was watching TV late one night. Couldn't get sleep. Wasn't particularly late, but I was watching Hard Talk on BBC, and it's chaired by a guy called Stephen Sackur. And he had a chap on this TV session that he was doing, and it was a guy called Steve Peters. Steve Peters is a psychologist, and he'd written a book called The Chimp Paradox. And he was supporting the British cycling team and other sporting elite sports people to work out why they couldn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. And people like Bradley Wiggins, who went on to win the Tour de France, and Victoria Pendleton, who were sort of broke the mould in terms of what the UK was achieving at the time. And his book pretty much described why we feel the way we feel. And the fact that actually, you know, there is this little voice in your head, and he called it the chimp, and it was just an interesting book. I read that, and I never actually got to the end of it, but I got enough from it to just work out what was going on.
So everyone's got a chimp.
Yeah, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So just, you know, I read that book, and it was quite enlightening.
What do you think others can learn from that?
I think what's important is to be proactive, try and do a little bit of something different. You know, a little bit more exercise wouldn't do us any harm. You can't, you know, at the moment, as an example, I know that if I play too much tennis, my hip will hurt, and my tendonitis in my shoulder will get bad. So, you know, everything in moderation, but, you know, have a strategy around physical health, no matter what it is, and it just needs to be a little bit more than what you did yesterday would help.
Yeah.
Do the same thing for your mental, your mental health as well. Yes, small things, marginal gains. Be patient with yourself. You know, don't try and. You're not going to run a marathon. If you decide you want to take up running, don't try and run a marathon within a matter of weeks or months, because that kind of thing takes years. Speak to people around how you're feeling, what your issues are. Know yourself and know when you think you're getting stressed and what you can do to help that. But then, you know, the key thing is, you know, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to be overcritical about where you're at. And often, you know, chatting to friends and colleagues at work can be helpful.
So for anybody out there in the company who's not feeling 100%, they might not even know why, what message would you give them?
Look, you know, stressful issues can make you can become all consuming. You won't be the first person ever to have suffered that kind of feeling. I've been there myself. It's it's normal. There's nothing bad about it. Just, you know, when you're in that kind of space, try and work out what's going off, or at least have a chat with someone. Decide who you can confide in, whether it's in your personal life or a work colleague or a Bridgeway line manager. And if needs be, use the Validium service that we subscribe to, which you're all entitled to make use of. It's completely confidential, and the phone number, Lisa, I'm sure is provided on lots of documentation that we provide guys within the business.
So do you have a message for our managers, because they're quite key in all this, aren't they?
Yeah, you know, managers play such a critical role. I mean, you know, most of the managers at Bridgeway started out as people doing stuff. I started out at the very lowest level of my industry, I guess. Lisa, you came in as an administrator. Managers are on that transition. You know, they're working really hard. They've done the job themselves. They've got a lot of pressure, and it's hard for them to juggle things. But they are managers. You are the conduit between the frontline staff and the senior leadership team, and you can provide that support. You can make a massive difference in the business. I know you're on board as individuals. Please stay on board and carry on supporting us, and use the safety net register whenever you need to, when you feel that you've got individuals that need that support, or there's issues with any particular area of business from a personnel point of view. Provide that support to me and my senior leadership team, and that will hopefully in time carry on making Bridgeway Consulting one of the most amazing places to work, because that's what we want to achieve.
I suppose just for everyone out there that might not know, but just explain to us what the Safety Net Register is.
Yeah, the Safety Net Register started its life as the at-risk register, and we were finding from a statistics perspective that things would go wrong, and we'd end up with health and safety event logs, we'd end up with safety incidents, and the safety incidents would always be reviewed from a rules perspective, process and rules. But then we started to work out that actually, what about people? When is it that actually, because a lot of the time when things were going wrong, the people that were involved in these events knew their rules. They understood what they're supposed to have been doing. And so then we were trying to work out, well, what's making it go wrong? What's happening? And we realised that in some instances, people are having issues with their it could be mental health and well-being. It could be massive distractions at home because they've got relationship issues or financial issues, or it could be that they're absolutely exhausted because they've got a new baby at home. So the Safety Net Register is there to protect individuals within the business, and the Health and Safety Event Log, which is what we review every month at the same time, is there for the actual safety event. So it's a critical support network.
And it's completely confidential, isn't it? It's just if
Yeah.
people are on there for personal reasons or medical reasons, it's HR and their line manager that kind of knows.
I've been on it.
Yeah.
I've put myself on the register in the past because, I've had issues that I've been dealt with, and I know that actually, I'm not in full form, and there are, there's stuff going off, and there's nothing bad about it. It's really supportive.
Yeah.
And we can work around people's needs.
Just picking up on the message for managers, I think for me it's important that they don't feel that they've just got to be the ones that listen to everybody else. So just because we're managers or directors, it doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to us, does it? It's they need to talk as well.
Look, we're all human beings, and what I would say is, look, we've all great believer in working together as a team. We're not immune to it.
You've obviously shared a lot there with us. What's your key message?
If you're in a difficult place talk to someone. Don't suffer in silence. If things are all good in your world, then great. But in that circumstance, keep an eye out on your work colleagues. A caring word, or just observing someone's behaviour changing. It could be life changing for some. So please keep an eye on your buddies. Keep an eye on the people that are around you. People who get stressed aren't always the first ones to realise it. So often, as peers, we'll maybe see that someone's changing their behaviour, and just
check in with them.
Check in with them. Check in with them.
Do you want to add anything else before we finish?
Yeah, look, in the run-up to Christmas, I'd just like to take the opportunity to personally thank everyone for their hard work and commitment. It's been another really difficult year, dominated by COVID restrictions and ever-changing goalposts, issues around whether people can take annual leave or where can they travel to, what's a good idea to do, are they shielding? I mean, for example, for me, everything I've had to be one eye considering that I'm the only one that goes and visits Pete inside his house every day. Yeah. Pete's been shielding for nearly 2 years, and the world's opened up to him, but his immune system is lower than an average person's. So it's been a really tough, another tough year. We've been very busy, which is good, but that creates strains. Recruitment and retention continue to be a real focus for us, and we're reviewing all of our processes in relation to it, and continue. I want to continue challenging the status quo. I want us to continue exceeding expectations everywhere safely and sustainably, at a personal level and also at a client level. And in remembering around the 3 E's, exceeding expectations everywhere safely and sustainably, sometimes it's not about, we might not be able to exceed those expectations, but in those circumstances, have those honest conversations and manage those expectations so that people can realise why things are how they are. I don't live in a fantasy world. We can't always give somebody something a bit better than we did last time, but we can communicate. I really value your continued support as employees and encourage you to carry on supporting each other, particularly in relation to well-being. And a conversation, think about those conversations that you could have might just change someone's outlook. And it's just a good thing to do, just to help another human being. Finally, I wish you and your families a really well-deserved festive break, a Merry Christmas and a safe and prosperous New Year.
Thanks, Pino, for your time today. We'll obviously continue to update everyone in relation to our wellbeing strategy next year. And as a reminder, the Validium number can be found on the intranet, and we're going to be sending out a text message over the next few days. We hope you've enjoyed the first ever Bridgeway podcast. If anyone's got any ideas for the next one or wants to be involved, we'd love to hear from you. Pino, any thoughts on who our next guest should be?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? I'm just absolutely open-minded about it. I mean, the one thing that Bridgeway is this really complicated machine, and every bit of that machine, no matter who they are, what they do, are key critical individuals. So I'm happy to hear from anybody at any level.
I think I'd love to hear from one of our apprentices. So if there's anyone out there that wants to get involved, then let us know.
Yeah, I'd back that. I mean, that's where I started from, right, grassroots. So really excited about the apprentices that are in the business. So yeah. Let's have a volunteer.
Thanks everyone for listening, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.